Yo, this is a video response to TNA fans' reaction to Vince's stand-up campaign, Stand Up for WWE. I wanted to post a response because this TNA fan obviously has some inaccuracies and some biased comments towards the product of WWE. But on some levels, he did make some good points, so I'm going to address them now. Buddy, I've been a fan my entire life, and I'm 25 as of right now, and I'm going to school for journalism and media to eventually get into that uh, WWE juggernaut thing. It's gonna take a couple years, but I'm gonna work my butt off so I can get there. Now, I want to address your comments towards the WWE Stand Up for WWE campaign. I think it's very smart that they started this campaign. However, I can I can agree with you that the PG-14 era isn't all that appealing to fans like us, because there's no gratuitous violence or there's no uh, big divas matches with like breasts hanging out and stuff. But you have to understand, my friend, that wrestling moves in cycles. You have to understand that there's a different demographic watching WWE programming now. And back then, when we were 15, 16 years old, it was okay because we were coming into our own teenage angst. So, because teenage angst ruled the airways, WWE needed some attitude, and thusly got in the form of Stone Cold Steve Austin. And then, uh, fans like us today, we turn to TNA because we associate with the Attitude Era, with being the highlight of the wrestling age, or the golden age of wrestling, as fans today would like to call it. And I currently don't watch TNA because, I'm one of those long-standing WWE fans. I'll buy into the suspense, suspending reality and such. I'll, I I love the programming. I kind of have a few kinks in the chain about the TV PG-14 era, but other than that, it's a good show. It's good entertainment. Um, but again, like I said, you have to understand that there are a different demographic of kids watching wrestling these days. Take, for instance, uh, let me give you a scenario. Say a father watches wrestling when he's 30 years old, and he has a son that's about 10, maybe, okay, 7 to 10 years old. He has a son maybe 7 to 10 years old, and his son turns on wrestling for the first time, and he goes to his son, you go, well, wrestling never used to be like this. And he turns off the TV. He's like, what do you mean? Every wrestling fan has a different perception of how wrestling was to them. Wrestling was to me, as is the beginning of the 90s, the introduction of the Attitude Era, and a little bit of the early 2000s. And I continue to watch, not because I don't like TNA, but because I'm loyal to the product of WWE. No matter how lame it may get to some fans, I'll always watch WWE. But before you do a rant on WWE, please do your research. That's all I recommend. Before you bash WWE, I recommend you all do your research. Because I do some research on many websites. I work for many websites, uh, reporting on pro wrestling and stuff. So I got a hand in a couple things when it comes to pro wrestling and information in writing stories and stuff and articles. Get used to the name because you're going to see it quite often. I advise you to visit NoDQ.com or ringrap.com or even the wrestlingvoice.net, and there you will see my articles posted, and I have a lot of opinions. And now it's in video format. And now I'm going to use my platform to express my ideas through vocal communication instead of communication through a keyboard. But I please recommend that anybody that bashes WWE, please do your research. I've done my research on the company for the past 4 or 5 years when wanting to attain a job and having to understand the qualifications needed to have a job there. And the most important thing for you to do is just do your research and follow protocol. Again, I want to plug um, ringrap.com, nodq.com, and the Wrestling Voice. Three of them together, all great sites. Jeff Meacham and the boys have a great show called Talk Wrestling. Uh, ringrap.com has a great radio show called Ring Rap Audio. It's, uh, it's a radio show on a weekly basis covering topics from Raw and SmackDown. And the Wrestling Voice has an audio show based on iTunes and weekly articles, opinions, show reviews, DVD reviews, book reviews, pictures, and everything to tickle your fancies. You know, they say that Google has now become the world's most entertaining source on the internet for information. Well, if that's true, I recommend you all use it to look up information in the right way. And don't just go to one source, go to 3 or 4 or 5 sources. Because if you go to one source, you may get the wrong details. The important thing is of why you go to 3 or 4 sources is so you can gather your own perceptions of what the truth really is. If you seek the truth, it will set you free.